I'm going to turn it over to Sister Michelle to ground us in the beginning.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and we're so delighted to be with all of you this afternoon to celebrate the Feast of St. Joseph on the Feast of St. Patrick. Seems like the right thing to do. So we're really so happy that you're all here. And we just wanted to just share the gift of Joseph and the gift that Joseph has been in the lives of so many of us. And so that's really what we're going to do, is really share some stories. But as we begin this afternoon, we just wanted to the text that many of you know that this year Pope Francis proclaimed the year of St. Joseph. And it really is marking the 150th anniversary of the declaration of St. Joseph as the patron of the Universal Church. And yet the interesting thing is Pope Francis really wrote this beautiful letter with a father's heart, kind of describing who Joseph was as beloved father, as tender, as loving, obedient, accepting. And he names Joseph as creatively courageous, a working father in the shadows. And of course, Pope Francis was writing this in the midst of the pandemic, when we were celebrating a new hidden ordinary workers who made our lives manageable during this pandemic. And so he made that connection, that really strong connection to Joseph. And as I was thinking about it, Jackie talked about her connection. I met the Sisters of St. Joseph first in high school, and of course, I'm an alum of Chestnut Hill. And so just have been blessed by the spirit of the Sisters of St. Joseph. And in entering the congregation myself, I love thinking about in the manner of St. Joseph, whose name she bears, which is a piece of our thinking about
And so we'll just take a moment to ground ourselves here. And if everyone would slow their breath, perhaps close your eyes for a moment. Become aware of your lungs. And call to mind a person like Joseph's story. Savor the memory of one Joseph in your lifetime, someone who has been that protector and guardian, companion, creator, and friend. And it is in the company of each other and all of those people who've been Joseph in our lives that we begin with the song of Joseph. And we begin with the song provided by Olivia Guerrera, with the memory of all of these Josephs in our heart.
How could it be, this baby in my arms, sleeping now, so peaceful? peacefully. The Son of God, the angel said, how could it be? Lord, I know he's not my own, not of my flesh, not of my bone. Still, Father, let this baby be son of my love. Father, show me where I fit into this plan of yours. How so fair. And when he cries, the sun just seems to disappear. But when he laughs, it shines again. How could it be? Father, show me where I fit into this plan of yours. How can a man be father to the Son of God? Lord, for all my life I've been a simple carpenter. How can I raise a king? How can I raise a king?
I had the privilege of working with Olivia as she composed this painting, fueled out of the words and lyrics of that song. And she says, I wanted to depict Joseph with a tender strength, protecting Jesus, but also in awe. I wanted him to look like he was in prayer. I noticed a lot of images of St. Joseph are of him looking at the baby Jesus, but I wanted him to look out, expressing, God, I can't believe this. This is you. That's what I was going for. At first, it was tricky. I had to start over a couple of times, but once I got the hang of it, I felt good to paint. It was sort of like a prayer doing it. When I would get stuck or wouldn't know where to go, I would start praying, God, how do you want me to depict St. Joseph? What can I learn through this? Through the process of painting, I feel very connected to St. Joseph, especially given this year, the year of St. Joseph. My family witnessed me creating this at home, and my dad went to art school, so he was giving me some tips. I always go to my dad. He's where I get a lot of my ideas about fatherhood. He shares a lot of St. Joseph's qualities. And so this painting is printed onto prayer cards outside the chapel. And so if you're walking past Carlino Chapel today, tomorrow, Friday, we invite you to come take an image, take a few to send to those who also have a connection to Joseph.
This is another beautiful image of St. Joseph created by a sister of St. Joseph from Orange, California. And it depicts one of the things that we often raise up about Joseph, the fact that he was a just man. The dictionary says that just means upright and downright, someone you could count on. And one of the people that we asked to speak to the presence of Joseph in her life is someone who you can certainly count on, and someone whose manner is gentle and loving and kind and always and ever ready for any and all good works. And so we hear now from Sister Mary Jo Larkin.
The Church's litany of St. Joseph calls him a guardian and a protector. He totally accepted God's inspiration to protect Mary and her child, even before he realized the scope or consequences of the role he was to play in the history of salvation. It's probably about the age of one of our college students when he learned that Mary, the woman he was expecting to marry, was pregnant. The baby she was carrying wasn't his. Before he could decide how to react to this, a messenger of God told him to risk his reputation, to marry her, and to care for her. And when he asked how he should do this, the angel replied vaguely, "Have no fear." These 3 words spoke louder than all of the practical warnings that were rattling around in his brain. So he did just that and began a lifetime of following God's signs one by one without hesitating in order to protect the Holy Family. Jesus is called the quiet man. His brand of quiet has little to do with words. It really describes the way he moved through life. He met enormous challenges protecting his family from tyranny, death, homelessness, without drama, without self-pity. He always ignored the what-ifs and never asked for a timeline or questioned outcomes or sought reassurance or even acknowledgement. He never even raised those reasonable excuses like his lack of experience or his youth. When his newborn son's life was in danger, an angel told him in a dream to flee Bethlehem in haste and go on foot to Egypt, and then to stay there until God told him to come back. Without delay, Scripture tells us, he got up, took the child and his mother, and left that night. Did he feel inadequate? Was he uneasy about the journey or how they would live in a strange land, or when their quarantine would end and they would return home? There's no doubt that he dealt with all these inner conflicts and reluctance. But all of that was secondary to the quiet trust that helped him to wait for God's plan to surely show itself. His trust in God's faithfulness assured him that his family would be safe and all would be well. There's a prayer to St. Joseph that I learned when I was a teenager. In it, we ask St. Joseph to use his influence with God to make impossible things possible, to aid us in trouble and distress, and to take our important and difficult problems as his own. We learn to count on St. Joseph as our protector in difficult circumstances. Now, I have to admit that in those days, my impossible challenges were merely algebra tests and basketball opponents. And the many troubles and distresses that arose in my life were from the ups and downs of my social life. As a stereotypical type A, I prefer calculated risks where I feel well prepared for the outcomes of the business that I am doing. Throughout my life, that preference has rarely been realized. More often than not, surprises are my norm. Have no control, and needing to react confidently in the midst of difficult circumstances are not unusual. In those situations, St. Joseph is my model. His willingness to move ahead without drama, to trust that God's providence will ensure successful outcomes, and to commit for working what is good helps me to move along one step at a time. Now, to be clear, self-doubt and hesitation and all the reasons why another person might do things better, quicker, and even more efficiently than I do always lurk in the background, just as they pitted themselves against Joseph's attempts to fear not. But the quiet confidence that led to Joseph's fulfillment of his part in God's plan offers me a reliable model. His consistent and quiet example moves ahead of me, showing the way. Actually, as high school kids, the sisters would say, "Go to Joseph, go to Joseph," and it was kind of a mantra. Ask St. Joseph. St. Joseph will take care of it. And so I think at that point he became three-dimensional. And then, of course, I became a sister of St. Joseph. So you've got to pay attention to St. Joseph when you're a sister of St. Joseph. The confidence that all will be well, that things will turn out, even when the practical aspects of a situation are horrendous. And common sense would say, this is crazy. You know, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't say yes to this, or don't agree to this, or I was asked to do something. I said, sure, I can do that. And then after that, I worry like crazy, but I know deep down inside, it will be well. God's providence, and it's not St. Joseph making this happen. It's Joseph's intercession with God will make this turn out the way God planned it to turn out for all eternity. You know, St. Joseph is a model. St. Joseph is a protector. St. Joseph is not our creator. He is not the author of all graces and life, of course. So, you know, I asked Joseph to be my companion before the throne of God. And sometimes you really need to know people in high places to get something done. So he fades in and out of my life, you know. And sometimes, in fact, this week I was thinking, why do I let that happen? Because he really is such an advocate and such a protector. What he did for Mary and Jesus, he is willing to do for all of us. So what we need to do is ask. You know, ask for help. Speak for me. You know, be my witness.
I'm immensely grateful for that conversation with Sister Mary Jo, and so much that I have been thinking about since about witness and companion. Moving on to Mike Terranova, another pleasure to have a conversation with such a pillar of strength on our campus for so many of our students.
Well, to be honest, until I became more familiar with the Sisters of St. Joseph, I probably didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about Joseph. But I think now, as I'm a father and a little maybe more life experience, I think about the situation that he was put in and how he handled it and how difficult that must have been, and the humility that he dealt with all of this with. So I think to me, it's someone who was there as a support, as someone who was willing to let God guide their path, and through a lot of uncertainty and probably not all just positive emotion as all this was happening, stayed the course and humbly, helped, the Christ come into the world. So. At times really heavy, times very fun, times losing sleep over I don't have, my son is 3.5 years old, as I'm sure I'm destined for many nights wondering, is he okay? What's he doing? To have 46 of those 18 to 22-year-old men in my charge, it's a roller coaster of emotions at times, but I hope in the way that we foster relationships in our program, I want to be close enough to them that when they're in need, right, they can trust me to come to me. And at the same time, I would say I probably put more of an emphasis on building the bridges and the relationships between each other and across them. Even sometimes in recruiting them, the way I'll explain it is, although it's my program, and I decide when we do what and where we go and what we might wear, and all, it's really their team. And so the more I can do to build them closely and build a strong trust across them, the more resilient the team will be, the more able it will be to deal with unexpected things that happen in adversity, because as their coach, I provide leadership and all kinds of things that help us generally go in the right direction. But when it comes to the performance of our labor here in sports, which is a game, I don't really do very much. Once the performance starts, it's up to the young men that I put on the field and how strong their relationship is to each other, more so than me. And so maybe in a little way to tie that back to Joseph, like, I have to train them, I have to prepare them as best I can, and then in many ways I have to step back and let them show what they're capable of, and then rinse and repeat, review, critique, educate, try and try again until we get it right. So I think that's probably how I see my role in my relationship to them. Just a moment in our practice, and we videotape, segments of our practice so that we can teach from them and the guys can get better. And just an instance where a couple young men were really competing hard and even had, physical confrontation within the rules of the game. And then when one of them hit the ground, two of them ran over to pick him up. Just, that's not a big thing. It seems like a little thing. But I'm really proud when my team shows their strength in the context of me being a coach, saying, hey, they're going to be all right when things get difficult, that they're going to be able to find each other in tough times. So that's the first one that pops into my head. I think the other one was Henry spelling his name the other day. That made me proud. Henry, just he's working on it at daycare, but yeah, I was proud of that too. It's really gives meaning to the purpose I hope to serve. A verse that I think I'm sure I may have heard before that, but that I've kept close to me since leaving college is Micah 6:8, theme of what kind of the purpose of life or the meaning of life or how you want to live it. Do justice, love kindness, walk humbly. And I like to think that my faith keeps reminding me of who I serve here, and that it's not about me, which was another, I think a C.S. Lewis chapter in one of his books. It's not about you, it's not about me. It's really hard to stay in that mindset, but that's, who I serve and how I serve them, and what ultimately is important long after the game ends, of what could their relationship to me or their experience as part of this program and this place, what can we leave them with that's not going to rust when they stop playing sports? What's going to be still there, hopefully long after, when they go become husbands and fathers and CEOs and doctors and lawyers and whatever they're doing in life. That's what I'd like to, hopefully, by staying close to my faith, leave them with some pieces of that will be with them.
So with the words of Sister Mary Jo and Coach Mike Terranova, what resonates with you from these stories and identities and qualities? And where is the invitation for you? Our campus ministry team crafted this as a guide for our year of St. Joseph, and we hope that there's one word or one phrase that can become a mantra for you this day, this week, this year. Joseph created, be a builder. Joseph imagined possibilities, be a dreamer. Joseph valued relationship, be a companion. Joseph cared, be a listener. Joseph trusted, be faithful. Joseph protected, be an advocate. Joseph loved, be gentle. Joseph guided, be nurturing.
And so with that invitation, we invite you to continue to reflect on the spirit of St. Joseph and let the gift of Joseph become ever more deeply alive in your life and in your heart. And I'll pray this prayer, but while you're muted, maybe you could say the pieces in bold as well. And so let us roll up our sleeves to do all of which daughters and sons of Joseph are capable, as we have from our beginning. Let us divide the city for the work of mercy, as we have from our beginning, and partner with our neighbors, local and global, for the work of justice, as we have from our beginning. Let us weave community in new and expanding patterns of lace and grace, as we have from our beginning. Stir our chaos into being, Spirit of God. Hearten our struggles for inclusion. Sustain our hopes for a just and holy world. And to all of this we say, Amen. Again, we thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon and for praying with us and for listening to our stories of Joseph. And we hope that as this week goes on, that you'll tell your own. And so happy Feast of Joseph, and thank you for all that you are for Chestnut Hill College and for the life of the world.